But it doesn't matter. We saw, we had 43% possession against Portsmouth, yet scored 4 goals and won the game. Where we had 72% possession against Bristol City, didn't even have a shot on target. So actually, what I'm saying is, being having less possession is I think we're more efficient when we do that, more effective. So welcome back to BCFC Royal Blue. Now, after a fantastic performance against Portsmouth, a really good 3 points, Birmingham City are back in action at home again just a few days later as we take on Millwall at St.Andrews KnightheadPark. And in this podcast, as always, myself and Matt will be discussing Millwall, doing our usual preview and giving a bit of information about them and also what we think the starting lineup might be for Blues. And, of course, we'll finish, as ever, with a score prediction. I suppose, Mate, really, we want same again, really, don't we, to carry on in this game from what we saw at Portsmouth?
Well, you're right, Dad. Definitely from a Blues perspective, more of the same. But before we get into it, it's worth stating, isn't it? I'm sadly away with work for this week. So, or the Millwall game being on the Tuesday, there won't be a post-Millwall video on the Tuesday or Wednesday. But we're hoping, if we can, to get a pre-Middlesbrough out a little bit later in the week. But in between those two videos, there will be an unscripted. But sadly, there won't be a dedicated post-Millwall video this week. As you said, Dad, more of the same from Blues. And I think it's funny what a win will do. After the full-time whistle went against Portsmouth, I just want to get back down to St Andrews again. It's funny what a win can do to you. But, Millwall are having a great start to the season, Dad.
Yeah.
They're in 4th. I'm sure they won't be happy about conceding their 90+6 against Oxford away from home. But, Alex Neil's got them well-shaped, well-prepared, good mentality. And they look to be breaking that next threshold now, don't they? Millwall have kind of been in that, I guess, the kind of Bristol City camp, that team that can't quite make the playoffs. I know Bristol City made it last year, but Millwall have a very good contention for the playoffs this season with the way they're going, with the way they're building, the momentum they're on. And even being the home team, Dad, there's no doubt this is going to be a gritty, I think, a well-fought game.
Yeah, it is. And as you mentioned, I think they just missed out on the playoffs last season and they've really pushed on at the start of this season. They're the only unbeaten team away. They've not lost away yet in the games that they've played. And they have had a few losses, but they've been at home. They've lost to Coventry and Middlesbrough.
There's no shame losing to those two teams, is there?
And also Wrexham as well. So they've lost 3 at home, but they haven't.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So away they've beaten Norwich, Sheffield United, Queens Park Rangers, and drawn at Charlton, Swansea, and Oxford. So they've done very, very well away.
But they have been that team, haven't they, Dad, in recent years? They just haven't quite made the playoffs. They seem to be stuck in that kind of 6th to 10th, 12th part of the table.
Yeah.
And as I said, Bristol City managed to push on to the next threshold last season. I think Millwall fans will be hoping they can do the same this season. But I checked out their social media channels, Dad, after the Oxford 2-2 draw. Some refereeing themes are coming up. I think the Millwall fans felt like they were very hard done by a poor refereeing display, and generally they feel quite hard done by this season by the standard of refereeing. But I mean, even as Blues fans, I think the standard of refereeing is generally quite poor. But
I think you could ask pretty much any fan in the Championship, and they'd probably say the same, Matt. To be honest.
No, I totally get that. Yeah. They spoke a lot about finishing their chances. They're creating chances, but they're not finishing as much as they could. They feel like it was 2 points dropped. But some logical fans said, a solid point on the road is always a good point when you're in the Championship, regardless of who you're playing. And Oxford, Dad, they have got a point at home against Coventry as well. So, not an easy place to go. But generally speaking, I think Millwall as a fan base are very happy with the trajectory that they're on. But, some definite gripes from the Oxford game for sure.
And so they should be. I mean, like I say, 4th in the table after 13 games. They were only 1 point off second. And 4 points off the top, that shows you where they are. I mean, this Championship is notoriously well known for being tight, but they're up there and they keep going. They're 3rd in the form table. If you look at the last 8 games, they're joint 2nd actually with Hull. They've got 17 points out their last 8 games. That's a good return. Their away form now they've got 12 points away, having played 6 games. The only team above them are more points away to Coventry, 14, but they've played 7. Right. So actually, if they were to obviously get a win, they would have the best away form in the league. So that shows you how dangerous they are away from home. There's not much in it though, between us and them in terms of goals scored and goal against. Obviously, we scored 4 in our last game, which really helped our goals scored and our goal difference. But they've only scored 1 more goal than us. They scored 16, we've scored 15. And defensively, we've both conceded 15. So they are, above us by a number of points. Yet if you look at the goals scored and the goal against, there's literally nothing between us.
Yeah.
So it's one of them games, that we are the home team and we will have the home crowd behind us. But no doubt Alex Neil will have these set up. They play the same system as us, 4-2-3-1, as a lot of teams do. And I want to see for us. We'll come on to our team a little bit later, a bit more about Millwall in a minute. But I want to see that intensity again. And you mentioned, that want to see that tempo and movement that we need really to play teams like this.
I think you have to give Alex Neil some credit, Dad. He's a good Championship manager. He's got a few teams promoted. I think Norwich comes to mind. I think he got them promoted.
He did, yeah.
He's had a couple of good runs with Championship teams. So he knows what he's doing. That can't be understated to have someone at the wheel that knows the league, knows how to win, knows how to grind out those away results. And I think we'll see a slightly different Millwall than recent years. I see Millwall quite similar to Blues, Dad, in terms of fan base. Again, if we're talking historically here, that working class, quite gritty teams, big fighters on the pitch, hard work, dedication, all that sort of stuff. But I think we'll see a slightly different Millwall team with Alex Neil. And I think he is adaptable. Although he plays the 4-2-3-1, if the game is crying out for directness, passing, possession, whatever it might be, Millwall now can are better at adapting their game depending on who the opponents are. And I think that's credit to Alex Neil. And I think he very much focuses on the mentality around his team and his players, consistency, winning your individual battles, making sure that hard work, that fight's there, the shape is there, especially in the defensive side of the game. So I think he's got them set up very well. And what I like about him is that he's adaptable and he focuses on that mentality with his players. So again, Dad, the fact that they haven't dropped many points away from home, but we are very good at home, generally speaking. We are a different team at St.Andrews for sure. And you pick up on a fantastic point, more of the same, more intensity, more speed. And I know we're going to pick out some dangerous threats for Millwall in a minute, but I think we can do some damage here at home.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, for them, but from my research as well, as you mentioned, I've also found that as well, that they're adaptable. So they do play, like a lot of teams, they do play a high press. But we've tended to do quite well against that, because if you break that high press, it gives you freedom behind. They do like, and they will take shots at will, so they'll get a shooting opportunity, they'll take it, and they do like playing with width. And again, the qualities that we're talking about with Millwall are very typical of what you see in other Championship teams because of the quality of players that you've got. They do have a preference to attacking down the right, and they do try and pass the ball, but like you said, they can go long where they need to as well. I see them, from what I've researched, as a very similar style of team to Wrexham. Wrexham are quite direct, actually, in terms of they do. But I saw when we played Wrexham, are playing more football now. Wrexham are, which they weren't in League One, and they definitely weren't before that. So I see them in terms of the style of play very similar to Wrexham. So we've already come out, in my opinion, we've already come up against an opponent that are very similar in terms of their style of play, and they're quite aggressive as well.
They are aggressive.
So
we have to win the first and second balls in this game. It's going to be key, Dad, because if we get bullied off the park like a Millwall team can, we're going to be in trouble. We need to stand up, fight every blade of grass and win our individual battles. I mentioned that earlier about Alex Neil having them revved up and fired up. If we don't counter that, they're just going to bully us all over the pitch. So we need to be up for this, that fight, that battle, that resilience. And we have seen it this season, Dad. We've seen, Paik putting in some big challenges. Waters always does well at reading the game. Clara winning his aerial dominance. Neumann now being a bit more of a brick wall. We are starting to see a bit more grit across the team, which is good. And I think we'll need that to match.
And Cochrane as well in the Portsmouth game. He got 2 assists, didn't he? One from a corner and that fantastic free kick for Clara's header. And obviously that game really sort of skyrocketed our set pieces goals. But they're not prolific in goals. They've scored 1 more goal than us. Their top scorer at the moment is Femi Aziz. He's their right winger.
Thankfully, he looks like he might be injured.
Is he? Okay.
He went off against Oxford about 36 minutes, I believe. And I think it's his hamstring. I don't think you recover from a hamstring injury within a week.
Ask Ethan Laird.
Well, exactly.
Yeah,
and he's a good player.
Well, he scored 4 goals. That's what I find surprising. They scored 16 goals, and we scored 15. But their top scorer's got 4 goals. And the next one, they've got two. Jake Cooper, who's a centre back with 2 goals, and Kamel Negai 2 goals. He's a right winger, and then the rest of them are 1s. From an assist point of view, it's Tiana Ballo with 3 goals. He's their other left winger. and Femi Aziz, and there's lots of ones as well. So again, we said this against Portsmouth, Matt, when we looked at them and researched them, that we didn't envisage loads and loads of goals. As it happened, we won that game 4-0, but Portsmouth gave us very little threat. We are coming up against a different team here, though, and I think these are much more aware of managing games, so they know. So I hope we don't go behind early. Well, if we go behind early, then that gives us more time to get back, but I hope we don't.
No, but I think with Blues this season, Dad, we run the risk of allowing teams to fizzle the game out.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
We don't want the game to fizzle out. We saw it away at Leicester. We saw it Stoke.
Yeah, Bristol City.
Bristol City, Stoke, Leicester. There's been a couple of games, and fair enough. I know those three we referenced have all been away from home, but we do have a tendency sometimes, if we go behind early, to just fizzle the game out.
Yeah.
That's not what we want.
No. I mean, they spent a bit of money as well, I mean, I look, obviously, but people look at us and they think we spent an absolute fortune, but we're not in the top 6 or 7 teams for spending money in the summer transfer window. I think Millwall spent more than us. They spent a total of, near enough the same as us, 9.8 million. Josh Coburn, they bought in as a centre forward from Middlesbrough for 6.4 million. Now, Millwall fans, I know that some of you watch our podcast, but let us know about him, because I've not seen him in the team lineup for a couple of games. Is he injured, or is he just not being picked? I don't know. They also bought Caleb Taylor, a centre back from West Brom, for £2.9 million. And then there's a couple of other free transfers. Derek Mazusako, a centre back from France. Joel Coleman, goalkeeper from Bolton. Free transfer. Massimo Luongo, central midfielder from Ipswich. So Max Cronco, another goalkeeper from Burton, they were free transfers. And they've also brought Alfie Doherty as well. And I noticed as well that he wasn't in the starting lineup against Oxford in their last game as well. So again, if you are a Millwall fan and you want to take time to make a comment, just let us a little bit about your availability of your players. I mean, Matt's mentioned that Femi Aziz may be injured.
He definitely picked up a knock against Oxford. I don't know how serious it is. I mean, from a Blues perspective, I'm going to call it. I hope he's out, because he's one of their big threats. So could be some good news on that point of view, Dad. But what's really interesting, that I read a comment from a Millwall fan online, Dad. They said they're giving away too many fouls, and it's bringing undue pressure when it's not needed in games. So apparently, again, I don't know how true this is. Maybe Millwall fans could comment in the section below. They're fouling when there's no need to foul, and then suddenly their box is getting peppered, and they're coming under this stress when there's absolutely no need to.
Yeah.
So apparently, again, I don't know where the league table is on this particular statistic, but Millwall are giving away the most amount of fouls in the league, and when they are, teams are just piling the pressure on, which is really interesting.
And again, that disrupts the game as well.
It does disrupt the game. But, with us, Dad, on our little 3 headers in one game, 3 set pieces in one game, could we exploit that if we get a couple of set pieces this game? Are those fortune tides turning for us? Hopefully.
Well, I mean, again, Millwall fans, just so that you're aware, if you didn't watch the highlights of our game against Portsmouth, we scored 4 goals. The first 3 were all from set pieces. Yeah. And before that, we have really struggled with set piece goals this season. Desperately, I think we were the lowest in the league before that. So maybe, but sorry about kind of.
No, I was going to say my final thing on Millwall, Dad. You've picked out a few of their players. I like Jake Cooper, their centre half. He's their captain, good experience, good composure in the middle. Femi Aziz, Camille Negley, as you said, and I like the combination of Mazu Sakho and Casper Demore. In the centre midfield. They've been working quite well. Again, you've got that balance of athleticism, but then also a bit of pace when they want to go forward as well. They work together quite nicely. But what I will say is, although I said earlier in the podcast we'll see a slightly different Millwall in terms of Alex Neil has his teams adaptable to set up depending on what the opponents are doing and where the game's flowing, a lot of their goals have came from a direct approach. I watched the last 6 games in terms of their highlights, right? And again, I know there's been more goals than this in the games, but one of their goals against Oxford was a long throw. The second one was a shot outside the box, and then Jake Cooper came in and tapped it in. Goal against Leicester was a long ball over the top. Goal against Stoke was in the box, again from quite a deep position. And the goal against QPR, again, was a long ball over the top. So the reason why I reference the goals that they're scoring is because we need to be wary of those balls over the top. Because again, we do at times look vulnerable to when teams go that a little bit more direct approach. So it's just a word of caution. Yeah. They will try and get balls in our box. They will try and go that long route if they need to, and it's just something to be wary of, because I think we have been caught out a few times with that approach in the past.
I think like I said, we have come up against teams that play similar systems and styles before. You mentioned as well, Matt, a few moments ago as well, like Alex Neil will want them to win their individual battles, or Chris Davies will want the same for us. And I think that's where this game will be won and lost, to be honest. I don't, even though they are 4th in the league and that they've obviously got more points than us at the moment. I don't think there's a huge difference between the teams here from what I've seen from stats and goals scored, goals against. But they seem to have the know-how to get results, particularly away from home, and that's where we have to watch. If you look at their team starting lineup against Oxford, you mentioned some good players there. Also, their right back as well, Ryan Leonard, very experienced. He was their highest-rated player there as well, and also as well they have Mihailo Ivanovic as he was their top scorer last season with 13 goals. I don't think he's got off the mark, or maybe he's got one, but he's not really fired this season as well. I think it's Lee or Luke Condell is their number 10. He plays just behind him, and of course they have got width. If Femi Aziz is injured, then clearly they have to put another somebody else on the right there. But they're like any club, we research these, don't we, for these pre-match videos, Matt, and every single team has got a threat. Every team has got a system, and it's literally about what we do, really, in terms of how we counter and manage them.
Every team, especially this season, in my opinion, are beatable. Even Covdad, they lost to Wrexham. Middlesbrough have started to lose a few games. If you look at the teams now in the top 4, I think the Championship this year is as wide open as it's ever been. It's absolutely mad. The gap now, is in the spread across the league is absolutely crazy. And as I said, Dad, I think these are going to be a tough opponent. Absolutely no doubt about it. But in my opinion, I think they're there for the taking.
I do as well. And but just a few final points for me on Millwall as well. They've got one of the highest stats for pressing as well. So they're really, really hard-working team. So they're well known for exceptional pressing. They rank really highly for that. And also as well, they're very high in terms of aerial presence as well.
They will be.
That's something we'll have to watch. So I think I could see the likes of obviously Dukes needing to do it. Obviously we've got Clara and Neumann who are quite tall. Wouldn't be surprised at some point to see Dykes involved in this game as well, in terms of his physicalness. But depending on how they go, I can't see him starting. We'll come on to our team in a moment as well.
I always see that as a Millwall DNA. Aerial battles, physical, gritty, fight, determination. I know they're all buzzwords, but that is definitely I associate with something like a Millwall DNA kind of for their club, similar to Blues.
Yeah, I think as well, Matt. I think they'll be happy for us to have the ball as well. So they're classified as weak for ball retention, but it doesn't matter. We saw we have 43% possession against Portsmouth, yet scored 4 goals and won the game. Where we had 72% possession against Bristol City, who didn't even have a shot on target.
Yeah, exactly.
So actually, what I'm saying is, having less possession is I think we're more efficient when we do that, more effective with less possession. But Millwall seem to be happy for the opposition to have the ball. But as we've seen, really, it's what we've got to do is that pace, that movement, that tempo. To make the use of the ball when we have it, but as ever, a lot of good things in their team, but it's really all about us, what we do and how we counter that, and if we can put a performance in like we did against Portsmouth, I think we can win this game.
I agree.
Yeah.
Quite, Dad takes on to the Blues then. So I think from memory, I did the defence and goalkeeper last time. So if you do that and then lead me into the midfield.
Well, we had a conversation, didn't we, in the Portsmouth pre-match about the right back position, because we know that Bright is likely to be back. But against Portsmouth, he kept Tomoki Iwata at that right back position and left Bright on the bench.
And as Iwata was borderline man of the match. In fact, he was my man of the match.
Yeah, it was mine as well. That's why I've left it the same. So I've gone with exactly the same goalkeeper and back 4. So Beadle in goal, Cochrane left back, Clara and Neumann as centre halves, and Iwata as right back.
And exact same for me, Dad. And if it's not broken, why fix it? I've done exactly the same for the midfield as well. So I've gone for Tommy Doyle and Paik in the 2 6s. I've gone for Dimmy on the left, Dukes in the 10, Roberts on the right, pending injury. We don't know what's. We obviously have to wait to get an update on Roberts. Playing into Stansfield. But let's just play the card that Roberts is injured. For me, it's a Keshi Anderson on, then swapping Dimmy and Anderson on the wings. That's it for me.
And I can't really. That's exactly what I've picked as well. I've picked Roberts as starting, but and exactly the same caveat. If he's unfit, I'll put Dimmy on the right and put Keshi on the left. But I've gone for. I mean, Dux. I thought Dux was very good in
really
number 10. I think he's only going to get better. We've only seen little cameo roles from him, but that was the first time that we've actually seen him properly, I think, in a pro game.
I like the physicality he brings, that his height. He brings something different in that regard, because we're quite a small team. I think you've highlighted that in previous videos as well. Our physicality on the lower end and the smaller end, he brings something different in that regard. And his intelligence, I said this in the post,
you did.
Portsmouth, his IQ is up there with the best. He seems intelligent. He's making those little passes. He's switching from left to right to left. I really like him, and I think from what I've seen so far this season, he has to be our number 10 moving forward.
I agree with that as well. One thing I would say though is we've both gone for pretty much the same starting lineup as Portsmouth.
Yeah.
But we have got a game against Middlesbrough on Saturday, and I think that Chris Davies might be thinking about 3 games in a week, and whether or not he rotates. But I agree with you. If
he did rotate,
if it worked, i.e., and it did, why would you change it?
If there's a couple of rotations to be made, again, I'm just talking this out loud. We've officially gave our starting lineup. I think he might rest Doyle for Leonard, maybe.
Yeah, but that's not bad.
If we're going, and he might rest Stansfield for Kyogo, maybe.
Yeah.
They're the 2 I'm thinking of as my immediate resting. Maybe Keshi Anderson might start as well.
Don't forget we got Kumas as well that could start
exactly.
in the event, or even Dykes, depending upon what he wants to do. But obviously, I said this is a conundrum for managers when you've got 3 games in 7 days.
It's a lot, isn't it?
And it's all right us saying, and we'd love to see the same starting lineup, but they had a game on Saturday. They're going to play again on Tuesday, which is a few days later. Are they going to give those energy levels? And obviously, only Chris Davies and the coaching staff are going to know this. We've both plumped for the same starting lineup.
Yeah.
I think that's what we both want. But of course, that depends upon what and how Chris Davies sees the fitness levels.
Exactly.
So
but before we go on score predictions, Dad, I know this is a really obvious thing to say. More the same against Millwall that we saw against Portsmouth. Fast tempo, quick passing, movement off the ball.
Yeah.
If we need to go a little bit more direct at times, go for it. But I think this is going to be, as I said, a game which is going to be dependent on individual battles. We need to be up for it because the DNA of a Millwall team is hard work.
Yeah.
We need to match that. And I just want to see the same principles applied that we did against Portsmouth to Millwall. But,
one thing I would say for the score predictions is the same applies to Millwall. So where where Chris Davies has got to consider the fitness and the levels of play, so's Alex Neil for Millwall, because they're going to have a game on Saturday or whenever it's scheduled for their weekend game as well. So it's not just us; it's them as well. So they may end up having to do the same, look at players, if they get injuries, rotate, stuff like that. So I hope we start with the same 11, but it obviously does depend on all those factors. So what about score predictions? It's an interesting one, isn't it?
So I went first for the last one, Dad, so I'm going to pass it to you for this. I'm happy to go first, but I don't mind.
Well, we scored 4 goals against Portsmouth, and it's easy to think, we've turned the corner now. Let's go nuts. But I think that I've gone for a tight game with this one because, like I said, I generally don't think there's a huge amount between these 2 teams. Notwithstanding the fact that Millwall have done well and and they're right up there near the top of the table. We're in 11th on 18 points, so we're not millions of miles away from them in points.
No.
I've gone for a 1-0 home win.
Okay. Me and you have completely flipped our scores down from the Portsmouth game then. So I went for a 1-0 win and you went for a Birmingham City 2-1 win.
Yeah, did you?
So now I'm going to go for a Birmingham City 2-1 win.
Yeah.
I was toying with, again, just full disclosure, I guess, maybe paying a bit too much respect from all. I was toying with a 1-1.
Yeah.
I don't think much separates these teams on paper. And again, you've got to respect their away form. But I'm getting a bit excited. We scored 4 against Portsmouth. I think at home we do look good, Dad. We do look strong. And I've just got a feeling with a few of their injuries and a few of their knocks, we could capitalise on that. So Blues 2, Millwall 1.
Yeah, it's about like I said, we beat Portsmouth now. If we can get another win now against Millwall, suddenly you are building momentum, and suddenly you get into so if we win this one, obviously that was 6 points in 2 games. That sort of
beat Preston last week as well. I know we had Bristol City as a loss in between.
Was it week before?
That's Tuesday.
Yeah.
So again, Preston are a good team, Dad.
It's Tuesday before, actually.
It was the Tuesday before. Winning against Portsmouth at home is a good win. If we can pick up another 3 points against Millwall, just backing you up, you start to get that momentum then. And that, I think the winning spirit is very key as well. We saw it in League One, what a couple of back-to-back wins can do for your confidence and your momentum. I want to see that for Blues again in the Championship.
And it feeds into the fans as well, because the fans are more positive. I mean, it's brilliant, isn't it, doing a post-match when we've actually won, particularly the way we did against Portsmouth. Because obviously the fans are, they're well happy, and you get, everyone's the feel-good factor is returning. Yeah. But that result will mean nothing if we lose against Millwall.
Exactly.
Well, it'll mean less if we.
No. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're only as good as your last result, aren't you? Then at that point. But I think this is a tough game, Dad. You're not in 4 for no reason. As I said, I think they've been building in the right way, Millwall with Alex Neil, and but focus on the Blues. I think we're starting to click now a little bit more. I think Chris Davies is starting to realise he's kind of best players in those positions. I think we'll start to see more consistency as the season goes on. And I've got a feeling at home that we can win this game. I think as I said, 2-1 Blues, and I would love to bag those 3 points going to the Middlesbrough game.
Yeah, me too. And as always, we'd love to know your thoughts, Blues fans. Add your comments below and let us know what you think about the score prediction, possibly what you think the starting lineup will be. If you're a Millwall fan and you've come across the podcast for the first time, or you've seen us before, then we always welcome comments from fans from the opposition team as well. So please add your comments below. All we ask is any comment is because we are a family podcast, that all comments are respectful, no abusive language or aggressive behaviour. But anything else, then please add your comments. As always, we hope you enjoyed the podcast, and if you did, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't checked us out on our social media channels already, then pop along to our X page and our Instagram page. And if you like to watch or listen to your podcast on Spotify, you'll find us on there as well. And you'll see the handles appearing on the screen for all of these channels right now. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already and you'd like to, then hit that big red subscribe button. And if you want notifications every time we put a new podcast out, hit that little bell icon next to the subscribe button. So that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. And myself and Matt will see you on the next one, all about Birmingham City.